Welcome back to Daily English Voices. Take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and let your attention settle here with me for a while. Today's episode is a story about courage, the kind that gets laughed at before it gets celebrated. It's about a boy with charcoal on his fingers who grew into a man who drew entire worlds, then invited the rest of us to walk inside. Yes, it's the story of Walt Disney, but it's also a mirror for anyone carrying a dream that feels too large, too strange, or too early for the people around you. As you listen, you'll be training your English naturally. Clear sentences, lively rhythm, and vivid pictures you can hear, feel, and repeat. Shadow what you like, pause where you need, and let the language sit in your mouth. Ready? Let's step into the life of a dreamer who refused to stop. We begin on a cold December day in 1901 in Chicago, Illinois, where a baby named Walter Elias Disney opens his eyes to a loud, busy world. He isn't born into money or comfort. He is born into motion, into a family that will pack boxes and move, work long hours, and argue as families do. His father, Elias, is strict and serious. His mother, Flora, is soft spoken and steady, the kind of person who sees what a child loves and quietly protects it. When Walt is 4, the Disneys move to a small town called Marceline, Missouri, a place of trees and dirt roads, of train whistles that cut the afternoon and make a little boy look up and wonder where the tracks lead. Later, when he builds an entire empire on the feeling of a small, friendly street, you'll be able to draw a straight line back to Marceline. They are not rich, so Walt doesn't have stacks of clean paper or fancy pencils. He has old newspapers, the backs of envelopes, and pieces of wall he's not supposed to touch. He finds the black sticks left over from the stove and makes pictures anyway, horses, faces, anything that moves in his mind. A neighbor sees a drawing and offers him a few cents for another one, and something clicks inside him. These marks people smile at could also be a way to live. School is another story. It is rules and repetition and quiet hands on desks. Walt's hands do not want to be still. They want to make. Teachers scold him for doodling. His father tells him pictures won't feed a family. But the pictures keep coming. Money is tight. By the time he is 10, Walt is awake before dawn, pulling on cold clothes to deliver newspapers in winter. He learns the taste of exhaustion, how your face feels when wind bites, how long a mile is when your feet are heavy. He sometimes falls asleep in class, but when he wakes, he draws again the one spark he refuses to let the morning frost steal. When war arrives and he is too young to fight, he bends the rules to get close. He joins the Red Cross and drives an ambulance in France. Soldiers climb aboard broken and afraid. He paints cheerful characters on the ambulance's side and sketches whenever he can, because even in the middle of fear, humor is a kind of medicine. Back in America, he tries a job at a commercial art studio in Kansas City newspaper ads, simple drawings, but the work feels small compared to the ideas in his head. He wants pictures that move, stories that flicker and dance. He and a friend open a tiny studio, Laughogram, making short cartoons built from fairy tales. It is fun, it is ambitious, and it is badly run. Walt trusts too easily, signs the wrong papers, and thinks creativity alone can hold a business together. It can't. The studio collapses. He sleeps in the office, skips meals, and counts his coins. Finally, he borrows enough for a train ticket, packs a worn suitcase, and heads west to a town that sells dreams by the yard, Hollywood. He arrives with barely any money, no office, and optimism that borders on madness. He lives in a small room, turns an uncle's garage into a studio, and films a little girl who walks through a world of animated characters, an idea he calls the Alice comedies. He sends the reel to New York with more hope than certainty. The answer that comes back is a yes, a contract, a beginning. Walt calls his older brother Roy, whose health is fragile but whose patience and practicality will become the quiet engine of everything that follows. Together, they hang a sign Disney Brothers Studio, rent a modest room at 4651 Kingswell Avenue, and begin. The success is small but real, enough to breathe, enough to try again. Walt dreams up a new character, a lively rabbit named Oswald with long ears and a grin that will play beautifully on screen. Audiences love him. The shorts do well. For a moment, it looks like they've found solid ground. Then Walt makes a mistake he will never repeat. He doesn't own the rights to Oswald. When he goes to New York to negotiate better terms, the distributor smiles with a knife behind the smile. They have hired away many of his animators. They own the character. If he wants to keep working, he will do it as their employee. He leaves the meeting stunned. The train back to California feels longer than any train he has ever taken. Here's where most stories end. This is the scene where people say, well, he tried, and go find a safer job. But on that long ride home, Walt opens a notebook. He draws a circle, then two smaller circles for ears. He tries a nose, a mouth with a wink of mischief, eyes that see trouble and sprint toward it anyway. The rabbit is gone. A mouse arrives. A mouse who smiles like someone who refuses to quit. A mouse that can be brave without being big. By the time the train slows into the station, a new chapter has a face. Mickey. The first Mickey shorts don't explode. They land softly, promising more than they deliver. Walt knows they need something extra, a surprise that will make the audience lean forward. He bets the little money he has on soundful, synchronized sound, not random squeaks, but voices and rhythm that dance with the picture. In 1928, a short called Steamboat Willie plays and the room goes quiet in a new way. People hear the whistle, the laughter, the music clicking perfectly with the motion. When the lights come up, the mouse belongs to everyone in the room. A star is born, and so is a studio with a future. Mickey brings friends. Gentle Minnie, Goofy with his warm clumsiness. Pluto, all heart. Donald Duck with a temper like a drum. They talk, stumble, and shine. What most audiences don't know at first, Mickey's cheerful voice in those early years is Walt himself, the creator speaking through the creature. The popularity of these characters spills from screens into the world. Pens, lunchboxes, watches, dolls. Suddenly, children are hugging something that used to live only inside a projector's light. The money helps, but it isn't what keeps Walt awake at night. He wants to know if animation can do more than make you laugh. Can it make you care? Can it make you cry? The answer will require a risk so big that even his closest allies call it foolish. Short cartoons are cute and affordable. A feature-length animated film is a mountain of drawings, time, and expense. People in town call the idea Disney's folly. Roy, always the realist, worries about the budget. Walt listens, nods, and decides to climb the mountain anyway. He chooses an old story that holds love and fear, danger and kindness in its hands. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The ambitions pile up depth, light, shadows that feel like shadows, faces that move like faces, music that wraps the whole world in a single thread. The budget explodes. Walt mortgages his house and signs papers that would turn a normal person's stomach to ice. The stress chews his sleep. His body starts to fray. Still, he pushes. The night of the premiere arrives. The theater fills with famous faces and people who expect to be bored. They do not expect their throats to tighten. They do not expect to wipe their eyes. They do not expect to forget for a little while that they are watching drawings. When the lights return, the room stands for him. Disney's folly becomes Disney's victory. The film earns more than anyone predicted, especially during a time when money is hard to find. Loans are repaid, bonuses appear in pay envelopes. A new studio campus in Burbank takes shape, sunlit rooms for artists, better equipment, space to breathe. Animation has proven it is not a party trick, it is art. Then the world shifts and takes the audience with it. The next features Pinocchio. Fantasia arrive into a world at war. International markets close. The math breaks. Masterpieces meet bad timing and bleed money. Debt whispers in every meeting. Inside the studio, frustration grows. Some people feel overworked and underpaid. The belief that we are a family begins to crack. In 1941, hundreds of employees walk outside with signs. The strike becomes a wound Walt takes personally. For him, the studio is his life's work, the people in it a second home. For many of them, it is simply a job with bills to pay. The months are noisy and painful. Negotiations settle the dispute, but something between Walt and his artists never quite returns to its early light. The war years redirect the studio's energy. The government asks for training films and informational shorts. Mickey and Donald wear uniforms. It's not the dream work, but it keeps the lights on and contributes to something larger than box office numbers. Walt travels as a goodwill ambassador to Latin America, and amid the forced practicality of wartime production, an idea begins to grow quietly in the back of his mind. What if there were a place, not a movie, not a temporary booth at a fair, but a place you could walk into where stories lived all around you? He sits on a bench at Griffith Park while his daughters ride a carousel. He watches them circle and thinks about the amusement parks he has visited. Sticky floors, cheap rides, a feeling that adults are waiting, not participating. He imagines something different, clean, cheerful, carefully designed. A place where parents and children play side by side. A place where the sets are not backdrops but streets you can explore. Most people would shake off such daydreams and go back to work. Walt gets up from the bench and starts to plan. Banks are skeptical. Investors smile politely and say no. Even Roy says, in the gentle way brothers do when they're trying to protect you, that this seems like a mistake. Walt looks for unusual partners and finds one, a television network that needs weekly programming. He offers a show that will take audiences inside the studio and introduce them to the park long before it opens. The network provides money and airtime. The show nourishes a nation's curiosity. He mortgages property, sells insurance policies, and pushes every chip he owns across the table. If it fails, he could lose almost everything he has built. He chooses land in Anaheim, then a patchwork of fields and orange trees, and draws a map with a castle at the center, and lands that feel like different worlds around it. A street from small-town America that smells like popcorn and fresh candy, a forest of stories where princes and witches share the same sky, a wild river and dusty trails that remember the West, a bright promise of rockets and the clean lines of tomorrow. Construction races forward and breaks constantly. Pipes burst. Designs change midweek. Heat buckles pavement. Opening day arrives before the paint can fully dry. The crowds double the plan. A river of people flows through gates and into lines that stall when rides jam. Shoes sink into soft asphalt. food runs out. The press writes sharp headlines. Many would have hidden for a week. Walt walks the park, studies the problems, fixes what can be fixed, and keeps adjusting. Weeks pass. Families return. Word spreads. There is a place where the lights don't turn off when the film ends, where children see their drawings walking around, where adults remember they were children once. Within a year, millions have come through the gates. The dream is no longer a model on a table, it is footsteps and laughter. What do you do after you build a kingdom? If you are Walt, you start designing a city. The problems of modern life traffic, pollution, chaotic growth have been on his mind. He imagines a clean, efficient community where people movers and monorails link neighborhoods, where work and home and parks are arranged thoughtfully, where technology serves people and not the other way around. He buys land in Florida quietly so prices stay sane and lays out plans for a new experiment, a prototype community that would evolve as ideas evolve. While the world reads headlines about movies and parks, he sits in rooms with architects and engineers, filming presentations that explain the vision piece by piece. He smokes too much, he works too hard. One day, a medical test finds the thing some people fear most, a dark spot on a lung that has been asked to burn too many cigarettes. He keeps the news small. He continues to meet, call, and sketch. From a hospital bed, he studies maps taped to the ceiling and talks about transportation like a man half his age. The engine inside him, the one that refuses to idle, never shuts off. In December of 1966, the body that carried that engine to so many places gives up. The news shocks people who didn't know he was sick and shakes people who did. For a moment, the world feels smaller. Headlines use words like dreamer and magic, words that can sound silly until you try to live without what they point to. The company pauses, then turns to Roy, the quiet brother who signed the checks and worried the worries while Walt raced ahead. He postpones his retirement, takes charge of the Florida project, and decides the name will carry his brother's first name too, so no one forgets who started it. When the gates open in 1971, they open onto a world large enough to hold years of vacations and thousands of jobs. 2 months later, Roy follows his brother into the good rest. The company grows beyond anything either brother could have imagined. More parks in more countries, a library of films and shows that different generations claim as their own, acquisitions that bring entire galaxies and superhero families under the same roof. You can measure all this in dollars if you want, but it is simpler to measure by what you hear when you stand near a parade route at night. A child who will never forget this bright hour. Two parents who, for a moment, are just two kids holding hands. A teenager whose eyes sparkle because a drawing she loves waved back. What does this story mean for you? The person listening with a dream that keeps you up or a fear that keeps you small? It means the path will try to throw you twice. First, when you fail for reasons that are your fault, then when you fail for reasons that aren't. Walt's first studio collapsed because he didn't understand contracts and cash flow. He learned. The second disaster came because someone took what he created and used the law against him. He learned again, and this time he protected what he made. It means the jokes people tell about your plans will echo until the day they buy a ticket. It means some of your worst nights will arrive exactly when your work is best, when the world is too busy fighting to notice your art. It also means that art and business need each other. A pencil can start an empire, but contracts keep it standing. Vision is why people follow you. Payroll is why they can. Walt felt the strike as betrayal. Many of the artists felt it as survival. Both were true. If you lead, remember the people in your care have different pressures than you do. If you work for a leader with big eyes and a fast voice, remember that vision doesn't cancel the rent. Put both truths on the table, build from there. It means innovation doesn't end at the edge of the page. The same imagination that draws a mouse can design a transportation system. The same curiosity that makes a dwarf's face feel alive can make a street feel welcoming. You can take the core habit look carefully, imagine deeply, try boldly, and apply it anywhere. And if you are learning English along the way, notice how this habit helps you too. You watch how a native speaker shapes a phrase, you imagine a sentence you would actually use, and you try it out in the next conversation without waiting for perfect conditions. It means timing matters and isn't always kind. You can release your best work into a bad week in history. You can build something beautiful on a day that turns hot and melts the road. Your job is to keep making, to fix what breaks, to learn from each jam. Notice the rhythm in Walt's life. Risk fall, learn risk again. If you copy only the risk, you'll repeat the fall. If you copy only the learning, you'll never leave the safe room. Keep both. And it means something gentle too. The small loves of your childhood are not childish. They are blueprints. The smell of a train, the feel of a main street where neighbors nod, the hum of a carousel. These are the seeds that later became lands and rides and music. They are also the places you return to when the world leans too hard on you. If you're listening to this on a bus, in a kitchen, or on a night shift, think back to the first things you loved making, the simple ones, before you learned to be embarrassed. Those early joys are maps you can still use. So, how do you use this story tomorrow morning? Wake up and draw your version of the mouse, by which I mean name the tiny, simple version of your big dream that you can create with the tools you have now. If you are building a channel, record 1 clean minute today. If you are writing, make 1 paragraph that sings. If you are designing an app, sketch the home screen on paper. Own it legally and emotionally. Protect it. Put it in front of one person who might care. Listen to what they felt, not just what they said. Add sound, add the extra element that turns a nice idea into a living one. Then repeat. When a door closes, when a contract goes sideways, or a person you trusted walks away, take a train ride with a notebook. You may not feel like it, but that is often the trip where your next idea introduces itself. When money is tight, find strange partners. Trade something valuable that others need for the chance to build what you need. When critics call your plan a folly, smile and keep your head down in the work. Let the premier answer them. When success arrives, invest in better tools and brighter rooms for the people who help you. Treat growth not as a party, but as stewardship. And when you finally make a place where people can step into your dream, whether that is a literal studio, a classroom, a website, a small cafe where the lights feel like morning, check the bathrooms, test the rides, walk the route people will actually walk. Solve the problems that make joy harder. The world doesn't need another perfect concept that collapses under the weight of a busy Saturday. It needs places where joy is easy because someone took care with the details. If the work begins to feel heavy and you see a spot on the x-ray of your life and overwork here, a neglected relationship there, slow down. Walk around the block. Put a map on the ceiling if you must, so that even from the bed where you rest, you remember why you're building. Tell the people near you what you see for the future so that when you can't carry all of it, someone who loves you can pick up a piece and keep walking. Most of all, keep the mouse in your pocket, that small symbol of stubborn hope, and take it out when you need to remember who you are. You are the person who makes lines into faces, faces into stories, and stories into places where strangers become neighbors for an afternoon. The world will try to convince you that imagination is cute, but useless. Smile politely and go back to work. The world is wrong. Before we close, listen again to the quiet promise this story keeps making. Your first tools are enough to begin. Your second chance might be hiding in your worst day. Your third act could be the wildest thing you've ever tried. Your dream, if it is kind to others and stubborn in the right ways, will outlive you, and what a lovely way to be remembered by the laughter of people you will never meet. This has been Daily English Voices. If this story moved you, say a few sentences out loud right now. Tell the room in English, in your voice, what your mouse is, what your Snow White will be, and which bench you'll sit on this week to imagine your own park. Speak it, hear it, carry it with you, and when someone calls you crazy, smile and keep building. The castle is closer than it looks.